I got tired of waiting. Welcome back to the next part of From Genesis to Revelation. I'm Alonzo the Vet. Here's my tired wife.
I'm not tired.
Your name?
Jade DeVette.
All right, you guys. And so we're back. We're going to read out of 1 Samuel chapter 13. And yep, we're just going to read today. I don't really have anything. Go ahead and pray.
Lord, thank you for this broadcast. Allow wisdom to just overflow within us, Father. Allow us to retain the knowledge that we receive from the word today and speak through Lonzo to deliver a message to what we read to the people that need to hear it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Let me see, is it H? Get the screen share up. All right, Lord, give us eyes that see, ears that hear, and a heart to understand the mysteries of your word. I pray that this is From Genesis to Revelation broadcast reaches many people with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen. So verse 1, might just do chapter 13 today, depending on if this is the end of the story, because I have to go pack still, and among other things. But nevertheless, we're definitely going to get to the end of this Absalom story. I'll say that then. So, can you see?
Mm-hmm. Maybe just a centimeter closer, you know. Just kidding, that's fine.
Okay, so now it was after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. So we're just picking up after David does that slimy thing to Uzziah and Bathsheba, that whole situation. They lost the child because that was a part of the punishment to David. And let's keep in mind, God said, because you slayed Uzziah with the sword. Is it Uzziah? I believe so. Because you slay Uzziah with the sword, there shall be a sword in your house. So let me go back to it. Now then, the sword shall never leave your house. There we go, yeah. It's Uriah. There we go. Not Uzziah. Who was Uzziah? I think that was the guy that touched the Ark of the Covenant and died. Or it's either Uzzah, when they were bringing it back the first time. But, so because David killed Uriah the way he did and took his wife and all this stuff, just bad stuff happened. And more bad things are to come in this chapter because of that incident. So it says David has a son named Absalom, right? And Absalom has a beautiful sister whose name is Tamar. And it says Amnon, the son of David, was in love with her. So keep in mind, so we have one of David's sons, his name is Absalom. And Absalom has a beautiful sister whose name is Tamar. Now these are all children of David. And then it says, and Amnon, who is also a son of David, was in love with Tamar. And so we know David has many wives. These wives have different children. And so we can assume, or not even assume, from the way this is given to us, we know that Absalom and Tamar share the same mother. And then there's another brother named Amnon, who's, same dad, but different mother. And Amnon likes his sister Tamar. So much so he's actually in love with her, right? I wonder what love that is. Can you find out? So it says, but Amnon was so frustrated on account of his sister Tamar that he had made himself ill, for she was a virgin, and it seemed too difficult to Amnon to do anything to her.
Human love for another includes family.
What's that?
And sexual.
Oh,
Just
eros, like erotic. So, okay. That's the type of love he loves. He wants to have sex with his sister, if that's not obvious. And so he thought himself ill because he's just upset, or he's literally tripping. So it says, but Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, and it says David's brother. And Jonadab was a very clever man. So one of David's brothers is Shimeah. Shimeah has a son named Jonadab, who is friends with Amnon. So these are cousins. And so there's no good that could come from what we're about to read. And I like the way Pastor Jonathan Shuttlesworth has taught this. So I'm going to mention it as we keep reading. But obviously, right, the way this is starting up, we have three family members, technically four now, or five if you want to include David. But we have four kids. Two of them are absolutely related, same blood. One of them is in love with his sister, who's of a different mother. And then this brother, who's in love with his sister, is so in love with his sister that like he's literally bugging because he wants to do something to her, but she's a virgin. And this brother who wants to do something to his sister has a cousin who's friends with him. And it says this cousin, Jonadab, was a clever man. And he said to him, so Amnon, he says, why are you, the king's son, so depressed morning after morning? I mean, that's a valid question. What do you have to be depressed about when you're the son of the king? He's like, will you tell me or will you not tell me? So Amnon said to Jonadab, I am in love with Tamar, the sister of my brother Absalom. Jonadab then said to him, look at this. So this is what Pastor Jonathan says. You do not want to find yourself friends with people that encourage you to do evil. And let's see what Jonadab responds with here. Let's see what Jonadab responds with here. He says, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. When your father comes to see you, say to him, please have my sister Tamar come and give me food to eat, and have her prepare the food in my sight, so that I may see it and eat from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, please have my sister Tamar come and make me a couple of pastries in my sight, so that I may eat from her hand. And obviously, David doesn't think this is a weird request. But check that out. So we're introduced to this guy, this brother, who's so in love with his sister, he wants to do something to her, but he can't. And he's very depressed because that's all he can meditate on. And so you see how enticed he's become by this lust that's in his heart for whatever reason. And now this Jonadab, he gets into a conversation with his cousin, and his cousin then encourages him to do something deceitful, right? That he's plotting, helping him to plot for evil. And that's literally what that's literally what Amnon does. He follows the instruction of Jonadab, and it works. He acts like he's ill, and he asks the king to send his sister to basically aid him. And so let's see how this progresses. It says, then David sent a messenger to the house for Tamar, saying, go now to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying in bed. And she took dough, kneaded it, made pastries in his sight, and baked the pastries. Then she took the tray and served them to him, but he refused to eat. And Amnon said, have everyone leave me. So everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food into the bedroom so that I may eat from your hand. So Tamar took the pastries which she had made and brought them into the bedroom to her brother Amnon. It says, when she brought them to him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, come sleep with me, my sister. But she said to him, no, my brother, do not violate me, for such a thing is not done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful sin. And then she said that louder than that. She says, as for me, where could I get rid of my shame? And as for you, you will be like one of the fools in Israel. Now then, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. However, he would not listen to her. Since he was stronger than she, he violated her and slept with her. And so Amnon rapes his sister Tamar. And just keep in mind, right, Amnon couldn't figure out anything to do about this situation, that this evil that he was plotting, really. Or I guess I'll say it this way. You can't be certain that Amnon was plotting evil against his sister, but he did have this lustful desire for her. And this lustful desire caused him to act on something. And it was this evil report from his cousin, Jonadab. And so Amnon in his own mind couldn't come up with any plot, any scheme, right? But when he got to Jonadab and expressed what was causing him to be depressed, Jonadab gives him this evil idea. And Amnon hops on it, jumps on it. Now he's deep into this. And so he goes all the way through with the plan, so much so that then he rapes his sister. And I just wanted to bring that up because who knows if this ever would have came to pass if Amnon did not take the advice of Jonadab, and instead and it was this lust because his sister actually told him something righteous to do. She said, "Don't defile me. How about you just go and ask our father to have me in marriage so that nothing bad happens, right? Let's do it the right way." And he doesn't listen to her. And because she was stronger than her, he just violates her. That's literally what it says. Speak to the king, right? Speak to our dad, because he will not withhold me from you. And I mean, I don't really get the family dynamic back then, but apparently it was not wrong to be married to a step sibling. So people in Alabama were born in the wrong time. Nevertheless, just check that out. You see the heart of the man. When he's presented with something evil, I'll say this for when you see the heart of Amnon because he was presented with something unrighteous. And then once he was presented with the righteous thing, he held on to the unrighteousness. And let's see where that gets him. It says in verse 15, then Amnon hated her with a very great hatred. And so what did she do? I mean, it doesn't seem like she did anything except get violated. And then this is now the heart of Amnon. He starts to hate her with very great hatred. Indeed, the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. And Amnon said to her, get up, go away. But she said to him, no, because this wrong is sending me away. Oh, wait, is that really what it says? No, in. I missed in. So she says no, because this wrong. No, 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 I did say that right. Oh, there should be a comma. All right, okay, okay. It should be this wrong is sending me away, comma, is greater. Anyway, no, because this wrong in sending me away is greater than the other that you have done to me. And so in her eyes, it's gotten worse and worse. He says, yet he would not listen to her. Then he called his young man who attended him and said, now throw this woman out of my presence and lock the door behind her. Now she had on a long sleeved garment, for this is how the virgin daughters of the king dressed themselves in robes. Then his attendant took her out and locked the door behind her. Tamar took ashes and put them on her head and tore her long sleeved garment which was on her, and she put her hand on her head and went on her way, crying out as she went. And so the way people dressed back then obviously was a sign of what they are, just something about them, right? So it says that the virgin daughters of the king dressed themselves in these long sleeve garments. And you see this shame, because of this shame, and she doesn't want to be a liar, she basically rips the long sleeves off and then to let people know, that is a sign of what happened to her. And I don't really have anything to say of my own mind, but I just, going back to verse 15. So after he violates his sister, now he hates her so much. And like, I can't make this joke, but I just find that interesting. And it says the hatred he had was greater than the love. And so you see how fleeting this unrighteous love is, or the lustful love, right? It's just of the world, the way Eros love can work sometimes. And so he had this lustful desire for her. And once he was able to basically act on it, what was really in his heart showed, and it was this evil. And this evil basically transformed this to hatred for this person who he claimed to love. And obviously he didn't love her, because if he did, he would have done the righteous thing according to her, not this unrighteous thing that his cousin influenced him to do. Not that it's his cousin's fault all the way, but I mean, be mindful. Keep friends that'll push you to the righteous path. So she gets kicked out. She tears her long garment. She puts ashes on her head. And so she's in a time of like mourning, in the sense. Like she's very sad. So check this out. We see Absalom again. So then Absalom, her brother, said to her, this guy's not unwise. Has Amnon, your brother, been with you? So obviously, you know what he's talking about as been with you, because he noticed something about her clothes and the way she had ashes on her head. He says, though, but now keep silent, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this matter to heart. So Tamar remained and was isolated in her brother Absalom's house. And so he's like covering the shame of his sister in this situation. Now when the king That's not what it says. Now, when King David heard about all these matters, he became very angry. But Absalom did not speak with Amnon. So Tamar's brother did not speak with the one that raped Tamar, either good or bad. For Absalom hated Amnon because he had violated his sister Tamar. Now it came about after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shearers in Bel-Hazor, which is near Ephraim, and Absalom invited all the king's sons to celebrate. Okay, so how much time has passed? 2 full years. And so now he's invited his basically, his brothers and sisters to come and celebrate something about sheep shearers. It says in verse 24, and Absalom came to the king and said, behold, now your servant has sheep shearers. May the king and his servants please go with your servant. But the king said to Absalom, no, my son, we should not all go, so that we will not be a burden to you. Though he urged him, he would not go, but he blessed him. Hold on. Let me see this. So Absalom came to the king. Behold, now your servant has sheep shearers. So he's like, hey, dad, I have sheep shearers. May the king and his servants please come. Okay, so Absalom invites basically the king. He invites David and David's servants. But David said, no, we should not all go, so that we're not a burden to you. Though Absalom urged David, David would not go, but David did bless Absalom. Okay, that's interesting to me. I never picked this up. It says, then Absalom said, if not, please have my brother Amnon go with us. But the king said to him, why should he go with you? Nevertheless, Absalom urged him, so he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. So then Absalom commanded his servants, saying, see now, when Amnon's heart is cheerful with wine, and I say to you, strike Amnon, then put him to death. Do not fear, do not fear, have I not commanded you myself? Be courageous and be valiant. And so Absalom's been plotting against the brother that raped his sister this entire time. But I read verse 25 again because it seems obviously from 24 through 26, we know that Absalom wanted David to be there too. Now I know how Absalom gets towards David next, so I wonder if he wanted to kill David as well at this little celebration. So Absalom commands his servants, basically, when Amnon's drunk, kill him. And don't be afraid, because I'm commanding you to do this. So the blood will be on Absalom's hands, is what he's really saying. And so the servants of Absalom did to Amnon just as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons got up and each mounted his mule and fled. Now it was while they were on their way that the report came to David, saying, Absalom has struck and killed all the king's sons, and not one of them is left. Okay. So I'm not sure if that's all the way true, but obviously we'll keep reading. So because it says after Absalom got Amnon unalive, all the sons got up and they fled. But it says while they were on their way, the report came to David, and the report says that Absalom killed all the sons. Not one of them is left. Then the king stood up, tore his clothes, and lay on the ground, and all the servants were standing with their torn clothes as well. Okay. And Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother, responded, let my lord not assume that they have put to death all the young men, the king's sons, for only Amnon is dead, because this has been set up by the intent of Absalom since the day that he violated his sister Tamar. So now may my lord the king not take the report to heart, claiming all the king's sons are dead, but only Amnon is dead. That's interesting that Jonadab is the one to share that information. Now Absalom had fled, and the young man who was the watchman raised his eyes and looked, and behold, many people were coming from the road behind him by the side of the mountain. So after Absalom does this, Absalom also flees. It says, and Jonadab said to the king, behold, the king's sons have come, so it has happened according to your servant's word. As soon as he had finished speaking, behold, the king's sons came and raised their voices and wept, and the king and all his servants also wept very profusely. Now Absalom had fled and gone to Talmai, the son of Ammihud, and the king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom had fled and gone to Geshur and was there for 3 years. And the heart of King David longed to go out to Absalom, for he was comforted regarding Amnon, since he was dead. Okay, so anything stick out to you from this chapter?
Not really stuck out. I mean, it's kind of weird that you would want to do that to your sister.
Anything else?
I don't know that he lied about killing everybody.
Tell me then. Share with us what's like going on in your brain from all of this, from chapter 13. Share your thoughts.
That this guy, Amnon, liked his sister. Also, it was weird how like he hated her, but that makes sense though because obviously he's like thinking evil things or he's influenced by sin. And then his brother obviously did not like that. I kind of got confused when you were talking about, where was it? No, it's up here. Someone's cousin. Oh, no, not the cousin. Where it went. Nothing like stuck out. I mean, it's just a story about.
Well, you remember what happened last chapter, right?
Yeah.
What did Nathan tell David?
Nathan told David.
About Uriah. We started talking about, like this episode started, I went back and explained. You remember what Nathan told David?
About, what was it about?
The sword?
Oh, that it will stay in their house.
Yeah, do you see what God meant by that now?
Yeah, like destruction, right?
I mean, essentially.
Will stay in David's house.
So let's go back. Here, let me put it back up for everybody.
Yeah, because David said, so it's like the sword will stay in your house because his son is the one that did that.
Yeah, so
And now people got killed because of it. Because David killed someone.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So verse 10. Now then, the sword shall never leave your house because you have despised me and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. And so obviously, Uriah getting slain with the sword, right? This is what God's saying through Nathan. You have struck and killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. And so now, because David did that, he's reaping what he sowed. And I mean, you see how tragic it is, because not only is this the case, he lost the child, right? Or, well, the child died. And then now the devil is like giving place. And that's why I kind of want to bring up too, as well. Well, the sins of the father ended up, so now the devil has place in his house. And God is, because this is a punishment that God said, now God is allowing the devil to have a spot in David's household. And we see that come into action literally the next chapter, where one of David's sons is so lustful towards one of his daughters that he's willing to rape his sister. And so that, it says this son has a wise cousin, Jonadab, and Jonadab was friends with Amnon, and basically gives him the plan to enact the sin that he's been plotting in his heart. and it goes through. He follows through with it, rapes his sister, puts her to shame. But now, right, this sister has a brother who did not forget and he did not forgive. And he plotted for 2 years on how to seek revenge on Amnon. And that's exactly what happened. And so not only does David have a son who's violated his sister, now he has another son who's taken the life of the other one, the one that violated the sister. And so imagine like the house dynamic from all of that. And we see really, I can't really guess why Absalom wanted David to be there, but I can't say anything for certain. I just, Amnon's heart was definitely weird, obviously. But I'm stuck on that. He wouldn't have done anything if Jonadab didn't encourage him and give him a game plan. And so I would say I'm just thankful that there are people that are wicked out there, but they're just too stupid to do anything. Okay, let's go into the next chapter. Actually, are you here? Are you here with me today?
Me, yeah.
We're only going for 34 minutes.
Let me see how what the ETA is. And then is this pretty short, you think?
No.
Oh, it's not that bad. So let's just read it really quick because I still have to clean I have to change his litter so I can give it to them.
Okay, so that happens.
Oh, they're gonna be here in 1 minute. I told her to let me know, but she better let me know now.
Okay, well, probably will TV watching, but we're going to Florida, so we got somebody watching the cat. Dang, I was hoping that this would pick up, but it didn't. We got to read one chapter, and then it picks back up. Oh, no. Here we go. Okay. So, now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived. Now remember, Joab is like the commander of the army. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was drawn toward Absalom. Remember, the last chapter ended with it saying that David wanted to go and see Absalom, who went to go and hang with like the king of Geshur or something like that for 3 years. So verse 2, Joab sent a messenger to Tekoa and brought a wise woman from there and said to her, please follow mourning rites and put on mourning garments now, and do not anoint yourself with oil, but be like a woman who has been mourning for the dead for many days. Then go to the king and speak to him on this way. So Joab put the words in her mouth. So he's sending a woman to the king, and she looks like what? Someone who's mourning. Now when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and prostrated herself and said, help, O king. And the king said to her, what is troubling you? And she answered, truly I am a widow, for my husband is dead. And your servant has 2 sons, but the 2 of them fought in the field, and there was no one to save them from each other. So one struck the other and killed him. Now behold, the entire family has risen against your servant, and they said, hand over the one who struck his brother, so that he may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed, and eliminate the heir as well. So they will extinguish my coal which is left, so as to leave my husband neither name nor remnant on the face of the earth. Then the king said to the woman, go to your home, and I will issue orders concerning you. The woman of Tekoa said to the king, my lord the king, the guilt is on me and my father's house, but the king and his throne are guiltless. So the king said, whoever speaks to you, bring him to me, and he will not touch you anymore. Then she said, may the king please remember the Lord your God, so that the avenger of blood will not continue to destroy. Otherwise, they will destroy my son. And he said, as the Lord lives, not one hair on your son shall fall to the ground. Then the woman said, please let your servant speak a word to my lord the king. And he said, speak. The woman said, why then have you planned such a thing against the people of God? For in speaking this word, the king is like one who is guilty, and that the king does not bring back his banished one. So here we have it. Joab basically, hired an actor from Tekoa, and he gave her these words to say. And she basically pulled a Nathan on him. You're speaking like a parable. David thinks that it's like a true story, and then boom, the story is actually about David. And so the way David was telling her on how to act to bring her son back, even though people want to kill her, David was like, no, bring him back. And then whoever harms a hair on his head, I'm gonna deal with him. I'm gonna say no one can harm him. This son that killed his brother or whatever. And so the woman's like, aha, well, David, is that not what you're doing, right? Yeah, your son killed your other son, and people want his head for that. But I just came up with this whole false situation, and you said, nope, I'll protect the son. So she's like, well, why wouldn't you do that for Absalom, right? So verse 14 is where we pick up. For we will surely die and are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up. Yet God does not take away life, but makes plans so that the banished one will not be cast out from him. Now then, the reason I have come to speak this word to my lord the king is that the people have made me afraid. So your servant said, let me now speak to the king. Perhaps the king will perform the request of his slave. For the king will listen to save his slave from the hand of the man who will eliminate both me and my son from the inheritance of God. Then your servant said, please let the word of my king, please let the word of my lord the king be comforting. There should be a comma right here and right here. For as the angel of God, so is my lord the king, excuse me, to discern good and evil. And keep in mind, the word angel means messenger. And so people that God has appointed to like speak on his behalf or act on his accord, like to basically establish his will, the people that you can refer to them as angels as well. And so, I mean, just keep that in mind. And so I want to say that because the Bible's not just talking about like angelic angels when it says be careful how you treat strangers because you could be entertaining angels unaware. It's also meaning like pastors, evangelists, ministers, because you never know. And I think that came up to me because today, my friends, really my brother and sister, Rotimi and Nadine, they went to Florida on a flight, and it turns out that the co-founder of YouVersion, the Bible app, was on the same flight as them or something like that. But anyway, they ended up meeting him, and they took a picture with him. And I don't know how they found out that people were with YouVersion, other than there was somebody wearing a shirt that said YouVersion. But the guy who was like, I'm assuming was a co-founder, because the other guy's shirt that said YouVersion, it says YouVersion Engineer. So I'm assuming the other person that just had a regular polo shirt on was the co-founder. And the other guy was like a lead programmer or something for them to be together like that. But he just looked like a regular dude. No, anybody could have treated him just like a regular dude, but turns out he's someone who's done something so powerful that it's affecting billions of people. So keep that in mind as well. It's not just like, because when I think about that verse about you entertain angels unaware, I'm thinking, oh man, sometimes there could be like an angel in disguise and I would never know. But it's more than that. It's also, you don't never know when you're talking to a pastor or a minister, or you can't really be sure. And so you don't want to mistreat those people, because in mistreating them, well, that's also mistreating God. And do his anointed no harm. Anyway, let's keep going. So then the king answered and said to the woman, please do not hide anything from me that I am about to ask you. And the woman said, let my lord the king please speak. So the king said, is the hand of Joab with you in all this? So check that out. David knew Joab had to put her up to this. And the woman replied, as your soul lives, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. Indeed, it was your servant Joab who commanded me, and it was he who put all these words in my mouth in the mouth of your servant. In order to change the appearance of things, your servant Joab has done this thing. But my Lord is wise, like the wisdom of the angel of God, to know all that is on the earth. David's keeping a track record of Joab. Then the king said to Joab, behold now, I will certainly do this thing. Go then, bring back the young man Absalom. And Joab fell on his face to the ground, prostrated himself, and blessed the king. Then Joab said, today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord the king, and in that the king has performed the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. However, the king said, he shall return to his own house, but he shall not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house and did not see the king's face. Now in all Israel there was no one as handsome as Absalom, so highly praised from the sole of his foot to the top of his head. There was no impairment in him. All right, so now, obviously, if you remember what it said about his sister Tamar, she was very beautiful. So Absalom is fallen, or what am I trying to say? I want to say like the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, even in Absalom's own respect. It says in verse 26, and when he cut the hair of his head. Oh, let me read this. And when he cut the hair of his head, and it was at the end of every year that he cut it, because it was heavy on him, so he cut it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels by the king's weight. And so this is very important, actually. So if you get anything from this, Absalom has a lot of hair, and he grows it out every year, and then cuts it at the end of the year. It says, and to Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of beautiful appearance. Now Absalom lived 2 full years in Jerusalem, yet he did not see the king's face. Then Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. So he sent word again a second time, but he would not come. Therefore he said to his servants, see, Joab's plot is next to mine, and he has he has barley there. There we go. So not like planned plot, but a plot of land. Go and set it on fire. Oh. So Absalom's servants set the plot on fire. Then Joab got up and came to Absalom at his house and said to him, why have your servants set my plot on fire? Absalom answered Joab, behold, I sent for you, saying, come here so that I may send you to the king to say, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me still to be there. Now then, let me see the king's face, and if there is guilt in me, he can have me executed. So when Joab came to the king and told him, he summoned Absalom. Then Absalom came to the king and prostrated himself with his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. So obviously, something's about to happen. David kind of gets like tricked, or well, he has to face himself in the mirror from this woman from Tekoa that Joab sent. And she basically came up with this plot with Joab and said it to the king. The king wanted to help. But the thing was, David was acting righteously for the woman. But the situation was the same situation that David was acting kind of like unfairly in to his son Absalom by not allowing him to come back. So long story short with that, David allows Absalom to come back. But David never goes to see Absalom, the son that killed his other son, for raping his sister. I put that in there. Not like that was necessarily too bad, but that happened for 2 years that Absalom did not see the king's face. So Absalom's kind of like nervous, right? He's not really at peace in Jerusalem because sure the king sent for you to come back, but the king refuses to come and see me. So like, is he plotting on me? Because the thing is, that's what Absalom did to Amnon. He never spoke good or bad to Amnon because he was plotting the whole time to kill Amnon. And so after the 2-year mark, Absalom was like, no, I've seen these patterns before. So he sends for he sends for Joab, right? Joab is in the king's courts. He's the leader of the army, so to speak. And Joab doesn't come see him either. So then he's like, all right, well, since Joab's my neighbor, I'm going to go set his land on fire. And that's what happens. And then Joab comes and is like, bro, why'd you do that? And then Absalom explains this whole situation. I want you to go to the king and ask him to summon me. And that's exactly what happens. Now Absalom's standing before David, prostrates himself before David. They greet each other, and we don't know what happens next because I'm not going to read it till the next episode. But thank you guys for watching. Just a progression story here. There's a lot of setup for something that's about to happen. But we've gone into the chapters where the word that Nathan spoke to David is being fulfilled about the sword being in his household. And it's not done swiping and slashing just yet. All right, love you. God bless you. We're going to get back to having longer videos. We just have something to do this weekend, so we're going to go and get packed up to travel. But again, love you. God bless you. May your spirit of wisdom rest on you forever.